now. Alrighty, hello everyone. Welcome to the Movieception Show. My name is Fariba. Joining us today, of course, is my good buddy Maya. If you want to say hi,
Hello.
Maya. There she is. And once again, we're back on a Sunday to kind of just do a whole wrap up of things that. Oh wow, my phone. Things that have happened the last few days, the last week since we had our podcast last week. I mean, again, it's something that we want to at least do on a periodical basis on Sundays. Now, of course, we pushed up the schedule today because I have an event at 5. So, thankfully, Maya was flexible, but we do have quite a lot of things to cover in terms of the movie and TV sphere. Lots of interesting things, lots of shockers, and of course, a little bit of some tragic news that have come out the past few days. So, I mean, let me just get that out of the way, of course, now that I've just mentioned it. I don't know if you know who David Lynch is, but David Lynch is like a very well known director. He did the Dune movies, he did Twin Peaks, and this, I think it was this Friday he had passed. It was very shocking. Um, yeah, I mean, you can literally hear the movie world just having like just getting the sense of their heart sinking hearing this news. Even I was shocked. I
hmm
was like, "Oh my god! Like, who would have seen this coming?" Because I mean, we're all very aware of his work, the things that he's done. Yes, like a little bit of the, I guess you can say maybe the one low point in his career is the Dune movie. But I mean, honestly, that's a movie that is considered to be the most unadaptable book up until Dennis
Yeah.
Villeneuve. But even that being the case, David Lynch did pass away at the age of 78 this past Friday, and people are sharing tributes and messages. I believe Kyle McLaughlin. So he's the one who played Dale Cooper in Twin Peaks. He's commented about it. He's done a lot of projects with him, like Blue Velvet, of course Dune, and then Twin Peaks. So yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's heartbreaking to hear about this. Even I was in shock. But I don't know if you've heard about him or if you're aware of his work. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I saw when the news happened when he passed, but I did not know
Oh,
who
by
he
the way,
was.
your sound is fading.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're kind of like your voice is a little low. I don't know if you're like near a
Oh,
mic or anything like
I
that.
am near a mic. Hold on. Let me
Yeah,
rechange this. Can you hear me?
it's low. Your voice is very low. I don't know if
That's
it's
weird. I
me,
don't know.
maybe.
It's just my
Oh,
phone.
it's me. My
Oh,
audio is low. Sorry.
oh, LOL.
But yeah, go on ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, so I didn't really know who he was. I saw the announcement when he passed, but I was
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh, sad, and then kept going.
But yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people are very aware of his work. I know one of my coworkers was devastated because they were like such a huge fan of David Lynch. I mean, he's watched things like Twin Peaks and then Dune, and it's like all that sort of stuff. I mean, and one of the crazy things that was I think was revealed on Friday. I think Ted Sarandos, right? One of the exits from Netflix, the guy who keeps talking about how streaming is the future and is trying to like downplay theoretical. You know what I'm talking about, right? Ted
hmm
Sarandos.
Yes.
He's commented about it. He also shared a very, a tribute to David Lynch, and apparently he had shared that David Lynch had wanted to develop a limited series that would have been his last project. Of course, of course that is not going to happen, sadly, which is very unfortunate because I mean, I would imagine a lot of people would have want to see one final project coming from David Lynch because he is a
hmm
very well established director. He's created so many classics. I think another good example would be Mulholland Drive. Like that's the movie with Naomi Watts, a very young Naomi Watts. So yeah, I mean, it's very unfortunate to see that we've lost a filmmaker. And it's like it's one of those days where it's just like you really hone in and realize how life is very short and that you just try to take the most of it. Of course, I think Ridley Scott has been one very good example of like a director recently who's been like, you know what, like 'cause I've been reading a lot of Ridley Scott as well, and he's been speaking about how he wants to try and make as many movies as possible. And it's just like you're thinking about those comments, just like wow, it's like okay. And then you see kind of news like this are like wow, like I mean, I wish we could have seen more. And it's like, well, then again, it's just like at least we can now celebrate what he's been able to offer. And so that's something I wanted to mention right there, about David Lynch. Again, I'm not more like with you. I'm not like a huge fan of his, just because I think I wasn't really in his time period. Of course, like I think he was far more popular in like the '90s, because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's where his peak was. But even then, like just to see that, just to hear this news, it was just really shocking. So, but yeah, again, all my condolences to David Lynch and his family, to all his fans. I know this is a very, how do you say it? A very, a sad moment that we all want to cherish, and just to cherish the memories of David Lynch. So, but yeah, that's just something I want to mention right there. So, let's get on to some other things. Let's talk about Oscars, because we were supposed to be talking about Oscars today, because originally speaking,
Mm-hmm.
because so first off, the Oscars originally were, so the nomination announcement was supposed to have happened on the 17th. Of course, that didn't happen because of the LA fires that have been going on. So then it got delayed to the 19th, which would have been today, but then it got delayed again because a lot of people are not voting, which makes sense because people are literally trying to figure out where they're going to stay. A lot of homes have been destroyed. Families are displaced right now, and it's a very critical time for a lot of people in California, where it is a very prominent industry for filmmakers, like for filmmaking. So now there's been a lot of things that have been going on since, like this has now, I guess you can say, it's escalated to quite an unexpected topic because of the fact that there is the LA fires. There are far more important things to think about than just awards, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, so I will say, for what we now know, like the Oscar voting has now ended. It has officially ended. I mean, even the actual extension has now ended, so we are expecting the Oscar nominations to be revealed, I believe, the 23rd, so that would be this week. But there's been quite a conversation. It's like whether or not should we have the Oscars continue. A lot of celebrities have come out asking, requesting that they cancel the Oscars this year. One of which being Jean Smart, the actress from Hacks, and even Stephen King. I mean, he's been doubling down
Mm-hmm.
on this, like very hard, saying that he's not going to vote this year because of the LA fires. And now this seems to be a conversation that's become even more prominent. Because not only has that happened, because now, are you aware of what the Oscar process is like? Like, are you aware what the process is for it? No?
Besides them voting, no.
No. Okay, so usually speaking, Oscar vote, like voters, right? Academy voters are supposed to take this opportunity to, like, they have screenings of a lot of films that are being considered for nominations, right? So they'll
Mm-hmm.
do that. They'll watch as many movies as they possibly can, and then they put their votes in. And then a lot of times during that process, a lot of people who are in their considerations, right? They'll do interviews around this time, which they're trying to promote their movies, trying to be like, hey, consider this film for nomination and whatnot. So that's what typically happens. Of course, that was short-lived because of the LA fires. A lot of things got canceled as a result of that, and now there is going to be a little bit of this debate of whether or not going into the Oscars this year, if whether or not the nominations are either going to be fair, because I think that's a big key thing, fair, and done so in a way that it was biased. And I think from what I've been reading a lot of reports of, like a lot of people who did vote just ended up voting for people that they knew. So it's just like, oh, are you voting based on popularity now, or voting based on just network? So now this is kind of creating a whole conversation. And I'm now, one of the things I'm very curious about is what was the voting turnout. I would imagine that this would be a record low because of the LA fires that's been going on, which is not very good. To have a low turnout means that there's less of a variation of like people who are expressing like what they consider to be the best films, best performances, best etc., right? So
Mm-hmm.
it has now created this discussion, and it's just like I'm now looking into this. It's like it's going to be very interesting Oscars, because now you're losing quite a lot of fair voting for one thing, and it's just like
Mm-hmm.
maybe there could have been this conversation of maybe perhaps delaying the voting this time around, just because it is a very very serious situation that's going on in California. And then it's like again, that is a far more important matter, and it's like why are they being forced to just somehow go in, watch these screeners, watch the interviews, try to be unbiased as possible to then do this whole voting process for just the nominations. So that's all I know as of right now. That's kind of what I can say at the moment, but I want to hear your thoughts about this.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it's how they explain it. I mean, it happened in 2020. We know what to do when there comes like this mass incident, you know? I would say like I feel like, movie lovers and everything will wait for the Oscars, if you push it back to like the end of the year, if like give everybody a chance to do everything. And I mean, more movies are going to come out for next year, and we already, there's it's not like there's like a, oh, well, now because the Oscars got pushed back, we have to include it. It's like, no, just keep it here. Every other movie that comes out, keep it for next year. Just push
Mm-hmm.
these awards back. Um, but yeah, I mean, I was literally looking up to see the LA fires and see how that was happening now and see just what's still going on. And I was like, oh yeah, because I mean, I haven't heard much about it just because we're so far on the complete other side of
Yeah, we're completely on the
the nation
opposite
from
side.
it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think especially for all of them in that area, just push it back. Everyone will wait, then
I
there'll be a
mean,
time to
yeah.
properly do this.
Yep. And I mean, yeah, and I'm very curious how the nomination is going to be. I feel like most of the people who may have voted would probably be those internationally. And I know
Mm-hmm.
there's been quite the conflict about a so-called movie named Amelia Perez.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to imagine that there's going to be quite a lot of nominations for that movie. Um, um, but I mean, again, it just tips into like a very awkward situation. Just like now, you have this low voting turnout. There's gonna be like I'm already under this impression that there's going to be a lot of big surprises and a lot of shocking snubs coming into the Oscars. Because if it's gonna go based on what you've already seen, and rather than like trying to be very unbiased as possible as a voter, that's just it does rub me off. It's like this year, are we going to have another crash moment?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of the Crash movie or what we mean by Crash moment, but that's the movie that beat Brokeback Mountain back in like 2005 or six, and a lot of people were like shocked because like Crash was like a movie that like no one really cares about. No one has really even. I swear to God, it's been what over 2 decades, and people barely talk about Crash, but people still talk about Brokeback Mountain all the time as one of the greatest movies of all time. And it's just like wow. And yet it was Crash that won over Brokeback Mountain, right? So,
Wow.
so I'm going to imagine there's going to be very intriguing Oscars going on. But yeah, so that was that for the Oscars. Of course, again, it's a very it's like a very massive debate. I mean, it's just gonna be a matter of seeing how things are going to turn out. I mean, I'm very curious to see what the voting turnout's going to be. And when the actual nominations come out, we'll talk about the nominations next Sunday, of course. Because I think it's coming out midweek this week. But yeah. So yeah, let's go to the next topic. So I think one of the greatest things about us doing this on a Sunday is that we actually get a lot of box office updates. Usually around this time, like Sundays, usually when they kind of start to establish a little bit more of a precise number for box office, or a lot of studios are able to submit a lot more of the actual box office numbers. Now, of course, it's January right now, and January movie time is typically one of the slowest times in a movie schedule. You don't
Mm-hmm.
typically put out too many big films. You don't put out a lot of blockbusters, although there have been exceptions, of course, like Megan. Coming out in January, and that was a massive hit.
Mm-hmm.
But typically January is a very slow time. There isn't. That's where a lot of studios would typically put in some of their their lowball, less than stellar films, just to kind of put it out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this week, right? And not just that, but also while that's happening, there's a lot of the movies from before that are still performing very well into January. Like, I mean, a good example would be Avatar, right? Avatar would typically come out in December, and it would still be doing very
Mm-hmm.
well going into January, and that's usually the older releases. So this week is a very interesting thing because now there's a new Blumhouse movie called Wolfman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're aware. That's basically like the remake of the classic Universal monster movie
Yeah.
from 1941. And it's actually directed by the same person who did the remake of The Invisible Man, and that movie was great. Like, I had a good time watching that film. So great. It's like, okay, well, Wolfman, I mean, if it's coming from the same director, still same filmmaker, this should be good. Now, the reactions for, I mean, not reactions, but the reviews for the latest remake is kind of mixed. I've actually seen the film, and I'll give my review on it in a second, because I actually did not do a review on it, so I'll just probably do it here. Um, but before going into my review, let's talk about the box office, because the box office this week really did shock me, because Mufasa took number one this week after, because last week Den of Thieves 2 was the number one movie, then somehow Mufasa claimed the top spot. It's like, holy shit, again? Because, I mean, it was just shocking, because we've been talking about how, Mufasa, because Mufasa came out the same time as Sonic 3 late last year, and Sonic 3 was the one that won the box office for 2 weeks, but then Mufasa was slowly kind of climbing and was getting a little bit more momentum throughout the holidays, and now it's like it's finally kind of getting the success right now. It's like it's getting into that profitable margins, and I think it will be a very big success for Disney, despite the fact that it did start off slow, which is like very interesting, right? I think the last time I seen a movie that's somehow starts slow and then somehow jump was, I think, Elemental. And so Mufasa is soaring again. But you know what the number 2 movie was? It wasn't even Wolfman. So Kiki Palmer, right? She had
Oh,
a
I'm
new
so
movie.
excited to see that movie.
By the way, I saw it last night, and it is hilarious. I had such a
Yes.
blast. And let me tell you, my theater was packed, and that seems to make a lot more sense, because the number 2 movie this week was One of Them Days,
Oh,
which is
yes.
shocking, because I swear One of Them Days was just, it seemed as though it was like a small budget movie that just occasionally number of people would watch. But the fact that it beat out Wolfman, which is actually considered a bigger movie, like, and it's in a movie standard, right? It seems like a bigger movie, because it is a remake, for one thing. It's coming from
Hmm.
Universal. It is part of, like, the main character is part of the Universal Dark Universe monster, right? And it's like Wolfman ended up becoming number 3, which is so bad. I'm like, oh my god. So you're telling me that not only is Mufasa the number 1 movie this year, but Wolfman didn't even take number 2. It ended up being One of Them Days, which makes sense, because the reviews for One of Them Days have been great. They look great. I've actually seen it myself. The movie is great. And I'll talk about Wolfman in a second, but just hearing about this, right? It's just like, whoa, like, what happened? Like, how did Wolfman do so poorly at the box office? What caused this, right? I mean, I think one thing, of course, would be the mixed reviews that were coming from the critics. I think right now it's standing somewhere like 53%, which isn't so bad, but I think the audience score has also been just as low. So it just shows that not a lot of people resonate with it. Then it's just
Hmm.
like, okay, well, what else could it just be, because it's the January release? So a lot of people are just kind of like, maybe, who knows? Or the fact that the cast could be, because I mean, let's be honest, the cast, it's a pretty solid cast. You have Julia Garner, who is a Emmy winning actor, because she won an Emmy for, I think she won an Emmy for Ozark twice, right? I believe she
I
won
think so.
twice. And then you have also Christopher Abbott, who's kind of been appearing in a lot of projects recently. I think the last one
Yes.
was Craven the Hunter, where he played what was it, the Foreigner? Foreigner? I think so. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's very baffling to see this. I mean, it does seem as though that this is another big hit on Universal, because this is the same Universal that wanted to launch a dark universe with
Hmm.
the Mummy, and I think this, like, remember the Mummy movie with Tom Cruise,
No.
the Mummy remake. Remember the Mummy
Oh,
remake with
with
Tom
Cara
Cruise?
Delevingne.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if
Yeah.
Cara Delevingne was in it, but
Wait,
no. I think you're getting that confused with Suicide Squad, honey.
no. Cara Delevingne
I
was in The Mummy, and she
she
played the thing. She played like the demon thing. Look this up. I know for a fact she
I
was in this
think you're
movie.
getting no, Sophia Boutella played the Mummy. I think you're getting her confused with
No. Oh, it
Suicide
was
Squad.
Suicide Squad.
It
God,
was Suicide Squad,
it
because
is
that's
that.
Suicide.
Why would they make
Yeah,
that
but
do
I'm
that?
talking about the Mummy. The Mummy with
Never mind.
Sophia Boutella and Tom Cruise is like a whole reboot of the Mummy. Like, the Mummy one, the one with Brandon Fraser.
Yeah.
And then there's a remake that happened in the last decade or so with Tom Cruise. That one did not do so well. A lot of people like shat on it. Um, and so there was so originally supposed to be like a dark universe that they were trying to launch, like their whole dark universe at Universal, and it just didn't work out because the Mummy did so poorly and it was so badly rated that they were like, yeah, we're just cutting this off. Like they just pulled a plug on the dark universe after the first movie, and now it's just like now you're seeing Wolfman, which is kind of supposed to help revive this whole monster classic universe in a way, right? In a way, because technically speaking, like they like Wolfman and Invisible Man are supposed to kind of be spiritually connected, but they're not. But I don't know. It's a bit of a weird thing. But now that we see that the Wolfman didn't do so well, I mean, Invisible Man did do well, by the way. That one came out like right before the pandemic, like it was like months before the pandemic, so it did well then. But
Mm-hmm.
now it's like you're seeing Wolfman, and it's like, that's a big hit because they just like they didn't even get the number 2 spot, right?
Yeah.
So, but I want to hear your thoughts because again, it's just like for me, I was truly shocked because I thought Wolfman was going to be the number 1 movie this week because it's a new release and it's based on a famous character, right? A famous
Mm-hmm.
monster from 1941, right? You would think that that should have been enough to push this film to be the number 1 movie, even if it's a slow week, right? It should have been the number 1 movie, and it's been a slow week, by the way. But this just shocked me. So, but I want to hear your thoughts. Like I ramble too much about it, but I'm gonna give you your chance.
So I did look it up. I understand The Mummy now with Tom Cruise. I did see that
Mm-hmm.
movie. Really thought Cara Delevingne was the person, but no. So I actually am not shocked at all that The
Really?
Wolfman did not come in top 1 or 2 because, and I mean, I know this is like, we're friends, we have differences. This is why we're
Mm-hmm.
different. You have SZA in a movie that automatically brings a whole new fan base to the theater
Really?
because of how, yeah, SZA, I mean, it's, do you listen to SZA?
Yes, honey, I do listen to SZA, but for me, it's like for me when I think about SZA, I think about her as a musician. I've never really seen her act before, and it's just like it's a whole new like not boundary, but a whole new kind of world for her. And it's like I'm pretty sure this is like her first movie, maybe, or first big movie, or at least of this caliber.
I
Especially with
think
since it is with
so.
Kiki Palmer, so like I know who Kiki Palmer is. I was like, oh, this is great.
Yes.
And honestly, the trailers for One of Them Days looked good. It's not like I'm saying like, oh, it was gonna be a bad movie. It's just that I didn't think that there was gonna be much of appeal to it, only to see that there was. But go on, but go on.
Yeah, I mean, with musicians, like everybody has, obviously the number 1, 2 you can do is Beyonce and Taylor Swift. Put them in a movie, people are gonna see it. But I think also, I mean, obviously SZA's great and never seen her act before, but I think the driving home factor was because of Kiki Palmer. Because everyone knows how funny she is. Like she
Uh
has
huh.
such a
Yeah.
great personality. And I'm pretty sure she's been friends with SZA for a while. And just like it's like having like almost like a 2 friends in a movie that you've known interact outside and you've seen them. It's like this is definitely going to be a movie everyone wants to see. I mean,
Okay.
SZA's been like you know, her like online. I mean, you can see her like if you scroll through Instagram, SZA will reply to just random comments on things. Like you just see her messaging
Oops.
people. So she's very like connected to, everyone, even though she is this huge pop star. And she's about to go on tour, I think, with Kendrick Lamar sometime this year. Um, so, she's very, from what I've seen in interviews and her music and how she is, she's very down to earth and everything. I mean, I remember in New York, I visited and she had visited her old pizza spot that she used to hang out with. And she was talking to everybody and taking pictures. So she's just such a well-loved musician that putting her in a movie, and then Kiki Palmer is an icon. I mean, I love Kiki Palmer, obviously, since True Jackson VP on Nickelodeon.
Yes.
That has been
Yes.
we love Kiki
I don't even know if a
Palmer
lot of people know
forever.
that show. I was like,
I
do
feel like
people
people
remember
forget.
that show?
I don't know,
True
but
Jackson VP.
that's where it happened. I was like, this, I love her. So literally her in anything is always great. Adding SZA, and then just seeing like the interviews that they've done. Like I don't know, like there's that interview that's been circulating, where Kiki Palmer was singing Defying Gravity. I don't know if you saw like that one best interview. That was so great. So it's just their personalities. I'm so not surprised, especially like after the holidays. People want like a fun movie, and they probably don't
That's
want
true.
something
Mm-hmm.
that's like, oh,
Too
the Wolfman.
serious, too
Yeah,
too
very
mellow,
serious,
or too
very
dramatic.
dark.
Mm-hmm.
We just came off of Nosferatu. Everyone's like, okay, guys, like we're done with the horror right now. Give me something lighthearted and fun to start off the new year. So I'm not
That is
surprised. I do
true.
really want to see that movie because I
It's
love
good.
SZA.
I recommend it. Like I saw it and it was hilarious. A lot of people just were losing their minds. I was like, oh my god! But it's a good movie. Check it out. Like I would say, try to see it as soon as you can because it's a really good movie. I had a great time watching it myself. I mean, I'm not surprised. Like, if there was one thing I would have said that would have been the appeal, it would have been Kiki Palmer, because I think she has been quite a rising star in the last few years, especially with Nope. I know there was one other film that came out recently. I can't remember on the top of my head, but she's been like she's been really gaining a lot of popularity. I think a lot of it is because of the fact that she has such a really big fan base that it
Hmm.
helped a lot with that as well. Because didn't she have like a talk show before as well?
She did
Uh,
something, I think.
she did
Yeah.
something, right? Like, so like she has a really big like presence in the media, in the social media world, so I think that also helped a lot. But even then, just to see Wolfman do so poorly, I mean, it's just, and I wonder if the whole Wolfman situation could just be because there wasn't really just an interest in it, the fact that it is the Wolfman, the cast isn't as well established maybe. But then again, I can argue that with anything else, and that could also be counteracted. But still, it's just that, just to see Wolfman do so poorly, it's just like, whoa. What the heck? And then on top of that, see Mufasa take number one. Like, what the heck? Like, that's just so random, you know? And
Yeah,
Mufasa's been
well,
out for about a month.
I think with the Mufasa, I think the only thing is that people are returning home for the holidays. Like, so
True.
I think it's like they're ending their trips because, like, I know some schools have probably, I don't know, probably in the north haven't started yet. Like, I was hearing some people I know who go to college in the north leave today because their semester doesn't start till tomorrow. And I've already been down here, we've already been in college for 2 weeks, in
Yeah.
the semester for 2 weeks. So, I think people are finally like returning home from the holidays and they're like, what do we do with the kids? Oh, Mufasa,
Mufasa.
trying to get the kids like one last thing before they go back to school. And I mean, the song's catchy. I don't know what to say. Go Lin Manuel Miranda.
Sorry, I'm just double checking some messages, but yeah, I mean, you do have a point. So I mean, we'll just see. We'll see him. I mean, again, we're gonna have probably another slow week coming up too, because this week I think the two new releases are the Mark Wahlberg movie Flight Risk, and then the other one is going to be Presence. So again, it just proves that January is going to be a very slow month. I think the next big movie we're gonna get it won't be until February, which will be of course Captain America: Brave New World. I think from what I've been hearing, the projections look very promising so far. Like it could be around 80 to 90 million, which is actually a very decent opening weekend. So we'll see how that turns out as well. But yeah, I think that is all I can really say about that box office. I mean, the only other thing that I can mention is the fact that Wicked has now made more than $700 million, honey. Your
Well,
favorite movie has now made 700. So what's insane is that Wicked, I believe the budget combined with both films were like $300 million. The fact that just the first movie alone has just covered the budget for both films is pretty insane. Like it's like literally you could just not release part 2 and this would still be a profitable movie. You realize that?
yeah, and it's going to be great because we still have a part two coming out.
I swear that one is going to at least hit near 1 billion. Near, at least near,
I'm It's the
near.
best part. I'm telling you. You don't know what's happening, and I'm telling you part two is the best part.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I mean, I again, as I said, Wicked was my number 2 movie of 2024. I'm excited to see part 2. I hope the movie wins at least some Oscar awards. I mean, we'll see about that, honey. I
Mm-hmm.
hope that
I'm
people did
worried.
not miss out on. I'm worried too. I'm like you. At least just please make sure Wicked ends up on the list, please. But I just wanted to mention about Wicked because I was like, it made $700 million this past week. That momentum's still continuing, and that's continuing even after the fact that the VOD has now already been released. So There's that. Now I can quickly give my review on the Wolfman, and I think this is also a key thing why, like, when you look at the first trailer for Wolfman, it looks alright. It's not like something that, hit me instantly as like something like, oh, I emotionally relate to this or I understand it. And I think I have seen the Wolfman. I saw it back on Thursday, and I thought it was alright. It's not like anything too special. There are some I mean, there are some things about the film that was like, really? It was a bit of a head scratcher, but I think the big issue I had with The Wolfman is that it didn't have that emotional depth that I would have wanted, especially for a film that's really focused on like the family and this tragedy and the fact that there's going to be something heartbreaking, right? You can tell from the trailer that this is gonna be a very heartbreaking situation, especially if you've seen the original 1941 movie. It's like, okay, well, you know how it's gonna end, right? And it's just like, okay, well, if that's gonna be the case, then the key thing for this film is that they really need to hit deep on the emotionality, and I feel like this is a film that really lacked that. Like, when you watch it, I'm just like watching them, and I just never really feel that connection. They really trying to establish a lot of the connection, especially between the father and daughter, but it just never really hit me. Like, it never emotionally resonated with me as I'm watching the film. Like, by the time I get to the ending, it's just like, oh, well, he died. I'm sorry, I didn't say anything. It's like, it's like,
Anyway.
oh, well. Anyway, I didn't say anything. Sorry, that was a slip. But it's like, oh, well, that happened, right? And it's like, okay. But I think what really disappointed me is that the performances were a little bit stilted, for sure. Which is shocking to say for me, because it's like, you have Christopher Abbott, you have Julia Garner, who is a 2-time Emmy winning actor, and it's just like, and I think that's a part of the reason why, like, the performances never really stood, like, the emotionality never really stood out, because the chemistry just wasn't really there. You know what I'm saying? Like, the dynamic was a little bit underwhelming, at least in my perspective. So I think that for me, in terms of the movie and my review on it, it's just, I wish it could have been better. It does seem as though that it just really got a little lost in trying to establish that depth. And as a result of that, like, I didn't get to truly enjoy this film in a way that I would have liked. Especially, like at least with The Invisible Man, that film was great. Like, it was so great. You can feel the intensity of Elizabeth Moss's character, how she, she has a husband, or at least her husband is dead, but then there's this invisible man, and it's like, okay, and this guy's stalking her, and it's just like, okay, well, how she's gonna try and, protect herself and whatnot. It's like, and you can feel that intensity, right? I think that that film does a really great job of establishing the intense environment and the character and the feelings and how she's trying to react to the moment, and then on top of that, given an idea of that relationship between her and her husband in the very beginning of the movie, right? The very beginning of the movie establishes that so well. And I think that this film just doesn't do it in the same way, which is really disappointing, because, again, it's done by the same director. And it's like, he gave us such a great remake of The Invisible Man, but was a little underwhelming with Wolfman. But that's what I have to say. I know you haven't seen The Wolfman, right? I don't think you have.
No.
But you're not planning on seeing it, right?
No.
No, so... But yeah, I just want to get my review out there. It's just like, I wish it could have been better. I wanted it to be better, but it just didn't work out, at least in my opinion. But yeah, but we can move on to the next discussion, because I know you can't really say a whole lot about Wolfman. But let's go on to, let's talk about Scream. I mean, you follow Scream, right?
Scream.
The Scream fan. The Scream movies?
Kind of. I've seen the first one.
You've seen the first one. I mean, okay, so, but Sidney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell, right? Okay, so a lot of, like, updates came out this week in terms of the Scream movie. Like, a lot of casting updates. One being that, one of the stars from, like, the new Core 4 is coming back. So both the twins from the new era are coming back. Now, you're probably aware that Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega are not coming back, right? Like,
yes.
You know that part.
I'm aware.
So, but the other two, the ones who played the twins, are coming back. They just announced that. But the more shocking thing is the fact that they did a casting for Sidney Prescott's husband. Now, that, again, that's played by Neve Campbell. So that's the main character from the Scream movies, the one who's like the final, you know what I'm talking about, the final girl?
Yes.
So that's her. So she's coming back for Scream 7. She did not come back for Scream 6 because of a whole pay dispute. She's coming back from Scream 7. And this past week, they announced that, who's playing her husband is going to be Joel McHale, which is very shocking because I believe it was Scream 3. There was a character played by Patrick Dempsey who kind of seemed to be like a love interest to Sydney's character, and I believe he had survived in that film. And so a lot of people had speculated that, because now in Scream 5, not Scream 5, sorry, so the 2022 Scream movie that came out, so that's the one where they introduced Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega the first time, right? You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So in that film, so Sydney looked to have been married. She seems to have kids. She had seemed to kind of finally moved away from that life, only to be back in because of like the recent incidents, the recent murders that have been going on. And I think it was like I think they live in Woodsboro. I believe it's called Woodsboro. So she comes back, but then there was like a whole, well, if she has kids and she's married, who's her husband? I think a lot of people were saying it was Patrick Dempsey's character. I
Mm-hmm.
think even one writer may have confirmed this. I'm not 100% sure about that. So when the report came out that, Sidney Prescott's husband is going to be played by Joel McHale, a lot of people were very shocked. I was just like, wait, so it's not Patrick Dempsey? And apparently Patrick Dempsey, because now in the last year or so there was rumors, well, there was a report going on that Patrick Dempsey was being, was in talks to return as well. So, but apparently that deal may have fell off because now there was an update that came out that he is not coming back, which probably that probably is the reason why they had to redo a whole thing with the husband situation. So I wanted to bring up that. I was just like, that was just shocking because a lot of people were like, whoa, this was not a curveball that we all
Mm-hmm.
had expected. But your thoughts on this? I know you're not that caught up with Scream, but just hearing this, I want to know your thoughts.
I am reading an article about it right now. Um, so yeah, that is kind of weird that they just wouldn't bring back the one character. But I feel like, movie franchises, shows, they do that all the time. It's just like, huh? It's like, who's this person that's adding? But I mean, if they have a direction, I guess they'll figure it out. Will it be popular? I don't know. You can
Nope,
only wait until it
because
comes
I don't like
out.
what they did to Melissa Barrera. But I'm not gonna go speak on that matter. um,
That's
but
true.
I will not
But
speak on that matter. But go ahead.
yeah, I mean, I feel like I now have to watch the actual new ones because I've only seen like the old ones. Um, but I don't know. I don't know. Contracts, they be
I mean,
having things.
it really sucks because like you thought that like you would think that Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega would carry this new era of the franchise. Once you see that that's not going to be the case, but now it's just like you're seeing this whole change with the whole Sidney Prescott husband thing. It's just like what? I mean, I feel like a lot of us are saying, oh, if there's going to be a killer, it's going to be the husband now,
Mm-hmm.
because you always end up seeing that the ones who are closest to the characters end up turning to be the
Yeah.
killers. At least that's the trend that we've seen with these films. So but yeah, oh well. We'll see how this turns out. I mean, I would like to learn a little bit more of what happened with this deal that did not go through with Patrick Dempsey because I think a lot of people were really convinced that Patrick Dempsey's character was going to be the husband to Sidney Prescott. Only to see that that's not the case now, and I wonder what happened behind the scenes that the deal didn't go through. It's like okay, like of course because of this is why they had to pivot to this new husband situation. So it's like what I'm saying. So,
Yeah.
but oh well. Let's go. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, Narnia. Narnia.
Narnia.
Okay, Narnia. Uh, you're aware of the fact that Greta Gerwig's making a Narnia movie, right?
Yes, I am aware.
Now we don't exactly know which book she's adapting, although there might be speculation could be like a prequel or something. We don't know yet. We still don't have a lot of great idea of what this movie's gonna be about. We don't know where she's pinpointing, whether or not she's going to kind of make some changes. We don't know anything about it yet, right? But that being the case, now the Greta Gerwig, Netflix film, Narnia film that she's making, it's gonna be with Netflix. You're aware of this, right?
Didn't know
The
it was with
rights are
Netflix.
it's with Netflix. I think they have the rights now, and they're trying to establish. Now Narnia is like a very fantastical, vast
Oh, of
world.
course.
Like we can call it. It's like in the same degree that we would describe Lord of the Rings and House of Dragon. Like we're talking about a vast world. So you would think that for a film like Narnia, you would want to put this in theaters, right? Of
Yeah.
course, the problem is that you're dealing with Netflix, and Netflix is all about no theaters, only streaming. That's how we do it, right? Especially considering the fact that their executive member Ted Sarandos has really been pushing on the fact that that streaming is the future and that they have no plans on doing theoretical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so guess what happened?
Are
it
they
looks
doing the movie?
looks like Narnia is going to get a theoretical release,
Oh, good.
which is a good thing, a very very good thing. It's so here's the thing. One of my problems with Netflix is that they actually, so some of the quality films that they do have actually have the, the chance and opportunity to do well in in theaters. The one time I think Netflix has actually done this in a very big scale was Glass Onion. So that's the second Knives Out movie. I remember because me and Marilyn had gone on and checked and saw the film. We're like, we're gonna go see this in theaters, and it was such a, let me tell you, just the experience of watching Glass Onion theater is far better than just watching and streaming. Just so you know, it was a
Mm-hmm.
blast. But they only put it out for 2 weeks. But the movie did make some money, and as a result of that, the film did so well on streaming. Once it got onto streaming, I think a month later, and yet this hesitancy coming from Netflix, especially from Ted Sarandos, who refuses to put out some very big films in theaters, and see that they're missing out on this opportunity to put out quality films in a theater where there's just this very unique experience. It's just like, why? It's like, why Netflix? Why? You're missing out on this big opportunity, especially when it's very clear that there is this formula where when you put a movie in theaters and then, okay, so when you put a movie in theaters, it is very likely that it's going to perform even better in streaming against just putting it in streaming exclusively. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, why are they not doing this? Especially for some of the films that they should really be confident are going to be blockbuster, that have a lot of theater potential. Like, for instance, Glass Onion. We don't even know if Wake Up Dead Man's gonna go into theaters. Like, I don't even know at this point that's gonna happen. I mean, it happened with the second one. We don't know if it's gonna happen with the third one. But now, just hearing this news that Netflix was able to somehow compromise with Greta Gerwig to put Narnia into theaters, and that too in IMAX. I mean, that's honestly great news. On top of the fact that this film is now apparently has a release date of Thanksgiving 2026. Thanksgiving Day 2026.
Oh.
So, and then they're going to put it into streaming a month later on Christmas Day. But just hearing this, right? Just having giving a little bit more of that context about this whole nonsense with Netflix and how they're refusing to do theoretical releases, and then just hearing this, right? Like this really pumped news that they're actually going to put Narnia in theaters. Like, I want to hear your thoughts about this.
I feel like I kind of get why Netflix doesn't want to because they want to stick to their roots of this is streaming. But
But it's
I
dumb. It's dumb.
I I agree that, like you say it's dumb, but it's almost the same thing as like how Netflix wants to go into live sports, and that whole thing. And they were like, it seems like something Netflix can do. And then we saw it with the Jake Paul fight that they could not get their act together and their servers couldn't keep up. But for the Beyonce Bowl, it was fine.
And what's funny
I
is that initially Netflix wasn't going to do live stuff. I think they made this comments before, and now it's like years later. Look, look what happened. They're doing
Yeah,
live coverage.
exactly. I think it's they're taking time to change. I think especially for Narnia specifically, it is the right move to do it in the theaters because
Mm-hmm.
Narnia is such a loved book, a loved
Mm-hmm.
movie franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, seeing the Narnia world on the big screen was like the biggest thing, when
Mm-hmm. It was
I
big
don't
for
remember her
us our
name.
time. It was
Yeah,
big for our
when
time
they
because the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and then Pris Caspian, and then the last one was
yeah.
John Treader or something like that. But I remember Narnia, the first one that came out. It was a massive movie. Like, a lot of people were
Mhm.
talking about it, and I was like maybe 10 or 11 when it first came out, and it's just like a lot of people loved it. I loved it. I loved watching Narnia. I mean, I can't even tell you. I think that was my introduction to the fantasy world. I mean, of
Mhm.
course, now knowing a little bit more, like, I think Narnia and Lord of the Rings kind of came like around the same time or something, and I
I
think
think so.
C.S. Lewis and Tolkien were friends or something. So it's just like like the timing was like whoa, but even then, it's just like that was like my first introduction to like, whoa, this is the Narnia world. And and of course, like that would eventually lead me to liking other things like Game of Thrones and House of Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's far Shogun, like there's far more stuff, right? But Narnia was my introduction to that kind of fantastic world, just to see something as big. And it's just like, okay, well, if you're gonna remake it, you want to make a very big impact on it. Like you want it to be on a Lord of the Rings level,
Yes.
right? So it's like, why would you not take this opportunity to then put it in theaters where it is meant to be? So, but yeah, go on ahead. I think I may have cut you off, but go on.
No, no, you're good. But yeah, so I think that, and especially with a director like Greta Gerwig,
Mm-hmm.
who obviously we saw big, Barbie, iconic, Lady Bird, iconic, um, I think it works very well, especially since, and like I listen to a lot of podcasts that people, they don't like going to the theaters, but they love seeing these movies and they see so many. So it works for the people like you, like me, who like going to the theater and experiencing that. And then a month later, they're like, oh, I can just watch it on Netflix. It's fine. And still get that, you know, you still be able to get that same, you can still see it for everybody. So I feel
Exactly.
like if Netflix has the rights to such a big franchise like that, the 2 week run should be something that they continue with. Now, I don't know if you're going to bring this up, but I looked it up because I was like looking up, be able to get that same what you're talking about with Narnia. The fact that it comes out on Thanksgiving 2026, I would like to also see, because now that's also the expected release date for the new Hunger Games movie. So who's going to win the box office? What's that
What
going to
do you
do?
mean? Hold up, hold up. What do you
That's
mean?
what do you
Hunger
mean I
Games.
mean?
No
That's
way.
what
You kidding me? No, no, no,
that's
no,
what this
no, no,
article is
no,
saying,
no,
Eric.
no, no, no.
Is it
You
wrong?
crazy.
'Cause
No, 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 no. No way. No, I'm just gonna disbelief right now, but hold up. I'm double checking right now.
this
November 20. So, when is Thanksgiving 2026? When is Thanksgiving 2026? Okay, that comes out the week after.
Okay, good. It's okay. So they grouped it as Thanksgiving
Yeah.
weekend. Okay. Because I
Okay,
was
no,
like, is
yeah.
it supposed to come out the same time? Because
No.
that would not be good.
No, if that was the case, one of them would have to move.
Yeah, I was like, I can't emotionally do that, first of all. And I was like, that would be really bad. But okay. So
But
they
no,
labeled it
yeah.
all as Thanksgiving.
Yeah, no. So, Hunger Games, Sunrise of the Reaping is coming out November 20th. If Narnia is coming on Thanksgiving Day, that would be November 26th.
Okay, cool.
So,
We
there you
have
go.
emotional time to prepare. That's good. Okay.
Yeah,
That was my
there you go.
concern. But not a concern anymore.
There you go. But I mean, but still, it's nice to hear that by the way, we will be talking about Hunger Games in just a second, but at least it's nice to hear that we are going to get Narnia. It's going to be coming in theaters, thankfully. You do not want to put this film in just streaming exclusively. It just seems so stupid, but that's a great news right there. I mean, somehow the fact that Greta Gerwig was somehow able to convince Netflix. I mean, again, this is Greta Gerwig who just made $1.4 billion film known as Barbie, right? Like, why would you not
Mm-hmm.
want to take that opportunity? I think she's definitely one of the biggest directors out there. It's like you do not want to waste that opportunity. Netflix would be stupid to just not put this film in theaters. But that's my final opinion about that. We'll see again. I mean, now that we have that update, I think the next phase is now going to be casting and trying to develop this world and of course filming. I mean, if there's going to be a filming schedule for this, it's probably going to be later this year from the looks of it. So if they want to hit that November 2026 deadline. So but yeah, let's move on from there. I mean, we talked about Hunger Games, so let's just talk about it, honey, because oh my god, we were talking about this through text. So now, so I've actually been talking about Hunger Games a lot on this channel because it's the one thing that I'm actually very well versed on. I've read all the books. I've watched all the movies. I've been very much updated about what's going on in the Hunger Games world. And of course, we're getting another book, another prequel book. It's gonna be The Hunger Games: Sunrise of the Reaping, and that's gonna be focused on Haymitch, which is honestly one of the most requested stories that a lot of fans have wanted, right? Alongside Finnick and Jenna, but it's like this is the one that we're finally getting, right? This is the one where it's the second quarter quail. This is the one where it's the 50th anniversary. This is the one where Haymitch won his games. And now, of course, for us, we've read the books. We know what happens. We know the context of a lot of things. We know a little bit of what happened to Haymitch. Like we knew what happened with his parents after he had won. Not parents, his family, his girlfriend. What happened after the games? And now this past week, I believe it was People magazine that they
Hmm.
released the first excerpt for the book, which is coming out, I believe, March. I think I just got
Yes.
like an email like this past week too. It was
March
like,
18th.
there you go. So I just got an email about it too. Like it's gonna be delivered in March, and I was like, yay! It's been processed. So, but it's coming, and we got the first episode. And oh my god, when I saw that, I was like, when I read the first thing, and when it said "Happy Birthday," my heart dropped. I was like, no. So I'm like, you're telling me that his birthday falls on the Hunger Games Reaping Day, and that means that all this time since winning, he's seen all these people die on his birthday. It's just like, you could not have made this. You could not have done anything to make me so upset for a character like Hamish. It's just like, and of course, we also learned that he had a brother. So we knew about the fact that he had a family, of course,
Hmm.
a family that's been long deceased. But now we know that he had a 10-year-old brother. So it's like, oh no. And then just seeing, it's just like, oh my god, this is like a Hamish pre-games, right? It's just, wow.
Yes.
I don't know how to comprehend this, Sonny. I'm just like, oh.
I think
Like,
it's I think Suzanne Collins said, "Fine. You want this so badly, you're gonna cry about it." Think that's what was going through her mind.
it's like, fuck him.
Basically.
You wanted this? Let me screw you over big time. Oh man, I can't even imagine what else is going to happen, because if that's just the first page of the book,
First page. Literally, it's
first
the first
page,
page of the book.
first page, it's like, what does this mean for the rest of the rest of the book? I mean, now of course, again, we got a little bit more of a context of like some of the dynamics. Like it looks as though that he is close with one of the female tributes from District
Hmm.
12, but the one that he calls a spoiled brat, I'm pretty sure I know who that is, and it's not. And I believe that's Messily Donor. But oh my god, I don't know. I'm prepared for this. It's coming out in March. I need to see if I'm off that day, because I honestly need to dedicate the whole day just to read the book. Like I don't
That's
think I can wait. I
No,
don't
that's
think I can
literally
wait.
me this Tuesday with the new book coming out for the other series.
Oh
I'm
right.
literally I'm literally trying to be like, how do I take a lunch break at like 8 a.m. to run to Target? Like, how do I do this?
I ordered mine at Barnes and Nobles, but if my book is not available, I'll just be like, I'm just gonna go jump to Barnes and Nobles, grab the
That's fine.
copy, and then just
Exactly.
cancel the one that I have currently, just because I really need to read it like ASAP, because I'm like, oh my god, I need to know what happens. And of course that means that I'll be prepared for the movie, because again, and it's gonna be directed by the same people: Francis Lawrence, Nina Jacobson. They're the ones involved with this film, and now it's just a matter of seeing who's going to be cast as Hamish, right? That I think that's just the
Yes.
big,
Big
big
thing.
excitement. Like, who is going to be Hamish? Who is it? There's been so much fan casting about this, but I'm very curious to see how that's going to turn out. But oh man, it's like, oh, just reading that abstract, I'm like, you guys are killing me here. Like, I did not need this. But let's go on to our next topic. I just want to quickly stop on to. Did you ever see You? Because I know you're
Okay.
in your Gossip Girl phase. I know you're in your Gossip Girl phase because you've been talking about this. I'm like, have you seen You? Because that has Penn Badgley in it. But go ahead.
No, I was about to start it because I was like, I need more Penn Badgley, so I'm going to be starting you for the first time. I was like, I
Well,
can't do this.
if I were you, I'll try to jump on it as soon as possible, because you are aware that You is ending with season 5,
Yes.
right? And that means
Yes.
that's the end of Joe Goldberg and his story and his serial killing days and
Hmm.
whatever, right? And so we got a release date. It's coming out April 26th. I believe it said April 20th. It's either 24th or 26th. I know it's April. But they released like a really short trailer. It does seem as though that's very focused on his victims, both alive and not alive. But yeah, just so you know, it's coming out April 26th. Please jump on it ASAP.
I will be
I'm
jumping on
caught up
that.
on. It's so funny because I actually have been watching the series. I'm just so it just shocks me just to see this. Just to be like, this has Maya seen the show? I know
No,
she's in a
yeah.
Gossip Girl face.
I finished Gossip Girl and I finished it literally before I went to work on like Monday, and I was just like, I am empty now. What am I supposed to do? And I was like, well, I need more Penn Badgley, so we're gonna be watching You. So
No, but You is
I
so
have to
good
jump on
though.
that.
You was so good, especially the first season. Because now you are aware of the context of like how you happen, right? So you use I believe you was previously a Showtime series. Then I
Oh,
think
okay.
it may have been canceled or something, and then ended up on Netflix, and then it blew up on Netflix. I believe this was like my college days. Like I don't think you were at college yet. It was like
Got
me,
it.
Marilyn. We were like watching you because everyone was talking about it, and we are like, okay, let's just watch a couple episodes. And it was like, oh, it looks pretty good. And then after the huge success of it on Netflix, Netflix is like, you know what, we're just gonna continue it, and then that's, now we're here, 5 seasons of Joe Goldberg just on the run. But I
Got
wanted to
it.
mention that because I was like, you know what, I know she's in her Gossip Girl phase. Let me just mention this. So yeah, but just try to jump on it as quickly as possible because it is now coming out in April, which I believe is also the same month that we're getting Last of Us season 2. Wow, I'm
Mm.
so excited about Last of Us. But yeah, let's move on, shall we? We have a couple more topics here. Let me just mention this one because I've been saying this on my channel a lot. I just did a recent reaction for this, and so Daredevil Born Again trailer just came out, I believe,
Oh,
on Wednesday. And now I've been talking to you about this because I am
yes.
super, super, super excited about this. I mean, it's just like, I still recall the day when the series was canceled after, because it was just like a month or so that season 3 had just dropped, and then just to hear the shocking news that Daredevil was being canceled and that there wasn't going to be season 4, even though the way that they ended season 3 made it so that there was going to be season 4. And it's like, whoa, what the hell? Like, what is? It's like, no, like you cannot do this to us. And then now, fast forward, we're like, yay, Daredevil's back, and he's actually in the MCU, yay! But now we're actually getting our first project focused on Matt Murdock, and of course that means bringing back Charlie Cox, him kind of just appearing here and there. He showed up in Spider-Man: No Way Home. He showed up in episode 9 of She-Hulk, the only episode that I actually thoroughly enjoyed, considering the fact I did not like She-Hulk. But Daredevil Born Again trailer just came out. You have not seen it from what it sounds like, because
No,
like
I
you
have
haven't.
not.
I know you have not seen the series, but you have not seen the trailer, right?
Haven't
So,
seen the trailer.
oh my god. And now, I'm going to say this. I have already done a reaction video for it, so it's somewhere on my channel. But just to summarize, oh my god. Disney was not joking on the fact that they were really going to stick to the violence, the
Oh,
maturity, the
good.
sophistication, and not only that, but holy crap. Okay, so I would say watch the trailer when you have the chance, because it actually looks even more violent than the original series. It's like I'm literally like watching it, and by the time I get to the end of the trailer, there's like this one moment. I mean, you're okay with like blood and kind of like
Oh,
the
yeah.
cracks. You're fine. Okay, I know. I know there's a couple of my friends who are not, but I never had that issue with you. So, but watch it. When you get to the end, you'll be shocked. You'll be shocked
Mm.
how graphic and violent it seems like this revival of Daredevil,
Interesting.
which I'm just like
Coming from
I'm just like
Disney?
he's like, yeah, Disney. It's like, wait, Disney, are you being for real? Because here's the thing, because before all of this, right, and when we were hearing the whole news about Daredevil coming, not only coming to the MCU, but it was going to be Charlie Cox's Daredevil, as
Hmm.
well as Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin / Wilson Fisk. It's like, okay, but what does this mean? Because we know that the MCU has been pretty much family friendly in terms of like the violence, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
like they have been PG-13 movies. Yeah, they're very there are some violent moments, but they never crossed the line where it will be very graphic, very gory, very violent. And honey, we gotta try and coordinate or something, because I gotta get you to watch all 3 seasons of Daredevil somehow, because we gotta do this. We gotta do this because I need you to join in on when the show comes in March, because when you watch the original series is just absolutely incredible. Like, you see this depth of Matt Murdock. He's a guy, like, he's a Christian guy, right?
Yes.
And it's like, yes, he's a Christian guy. He's like in a legal practice, but then like there is that hidden secret that he's a vigilante. There's like a little bit of confliction about his morals, the fact that the only way to kind of preserve the good is to fight off the evil, right? and it's like wow. And then of course his biggest arch nemesis is gonna be Wilson Fisk. I mean that's always been the key thing about the series, that the greatest thing about the whole series is this dynamic between Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk, and then the performance coming out of Charlie Cox. I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal. I'm just happy for the fact that Charlie Cox is able to come back as Matt Murdock, especially after the whole cancellation initially
Mm-hmm.
at Netflix, and now just to see this, right? And oh my god, just to see how graphic and noir, I'm like, oh my god, this is even more than Netflix. Like Disney, wow. I'm like, Kevin Feige, thank you. Because I also remember, this is a series that initially, when they filmed it, they had filmed it. Then the strikes happened, so they had to pause it, and then they look at the footage that was, available, and Kevin Feige is like, yeah, no, this does not work. We're restarting this from scratch. So they had to redo the series, basically. And
Oh,
then they
okay.
fired some writers. Then they brought in the writers from the Loki team, because the Loki team was, like, doing so well. I mean, if you've seen season 2, like, that's
Mm-hmm.
quality writing. And the actual team from that Loki, like, the actual writer from the Loki, season 2, I mean, I'm actually familiar with their work. They actually made a movie called Endless, and I recommend anyone who has not checked it out. But that movie's so great. And I mean, it also makes sense because that film was very focused on time loops, so that made, Loki season 2 even more brilliant. I mean, it made a lot more sense. And since then, they've kind of been very reliable writers, so it makes a lot of sense why they were brought in to do Daredevil. And that makes me even more excited, because you are bringing in these two writers who I actually am familiar with their work, who has already done something so well with Loki season 2, and then to bring them for Daredevil, Born Again. It's like, whoa, I'm so excited. And not only that, but they've already renewed the series for season 2, and
Oh.
apparently they're going to be starting filming soon already, even though the new series hasn't even been out yet. It's like, what? It's like, I have never seen Kevin Feige so confident about a project in a way like Daredevil Born Again. It makes me so excited about this. I mean, just to see the trailers, right? Just to
Mm-hmm.
see the first trailer for it, I'm just like, whoa, I'm in. I'm so happy. And first off, I'm happy because this is what I wanted. We got to see Karen. We got to see Foggy. We got to see Punisher. We got to see Wilson Fisk. We got this meeting between Daredevil and Wilson Fisk, like a meeting that you never imagined between the two of them, but it's just like it makes sense. And it's just like it's so perfect, and I'm just so excited. I need you to get onto this show. Please put it on your list
So many
because
things on the list.
it's on. But this one needs to be on the priority because it's so good. It is so good. It's coming out in like 2 months, and those 2 months are gonna come by very fast.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, I had to mention that. But I want to hear your thoughts. Just me rambling about Daredevil, like. But I want to hear your thoughts. Like, I know you have not seen the show, but is there anything that you want to add your input into this?
I'm glad it's keeping up with the original from Netflix, even though it transferred to Disney, and the fact that it got into season 2, like you said, because that
Mm-hmm.
means they under obviously Kevin Feige and all of them understand how loved this character is, and they're not
Mm-hmm.
throwing him to the side just because of
Mm-mm.
everything that's already happened. So,
Mm-hmm.
they have a vision. It's like it's a loved character, loved show, and it just shows like the passion that they have for it. Be like, yeah, we know that things happen. I guess, like you said, we had to redo the whole series. No, we're making it
Mm-hmm.
right for the fans. So that's what I'm glad
Mm-hmm.
about, because we've seen so many instances of shows, you know, side characters, all of a sudden it just gets thrown to the wind, and you're like, oh, they kind of stop caring about it, and everyone's like, no, but we loved it, and they're like, yeah, but we don't anyway. So I'm glad it's Daredevil's still, it's getting the recognition. So I guess I will have to watch it.
You have to. I'm telling you. If there's, because I know right now there's kind of this weird phase right now with the MCU where a lot of people are still sticking to superheroes, or they're arguing about superhero fatigue, or the fact that the MCU is just not the same anymore. Or that, I mean,
Mhm.
the whole woke comment thing is just so dumb.
Yeah.
I don't get it. That's just so dumb. The woke comment, it has nothing to do with woke. It's just the fact that the quality just has not been there. But it just seems so that right now, the MCU is kind of getting back to that quality again, and I think that Daredevil would be the key way to kind of
Yeah.
just set that pathway. And I think, and again, just to see the fact that it is coming back and the fact that it is coming so soon, I'm just like, I'm so excited to see it. But seriously, we gotta do a reaction for it. Like, since you have not seen it, we're gonna put that on top. And I have Squid Game in my topic too, so we'll talk about it in a second. But but we're gonna put that on our agenda at some point. Be like, yeah, let's just do a reaction with my with Daredevil, because honestly, I actually need to rewatch it too, because it's been a while since I've seen the series. I did finish season one, I think 2 years ago, and then I was in the middle of season two, but then I haven't been back on it, so I do need to do a rewatch right before it comes out. So we gotta try and figure out something, okay? So
Okay.
we're gonna figure it out. But yeah, let's go on to a couple topics. We'll kind of just breeze through a couple of them. The first reactions for the monkey came out. I don't know if you heard of this movie.
I
It's the one.
did. You
It's a
told me about
Stephen.
it.
It's a Stephen King movie. Apparently, the reactions are very good so far. Apparently, it's like really, it's like violent but funny. If that makes sense.
Interesting.
That's what a lot of the reviews are saying. They're violent but funny. So I'm looking forward to seeing this. This movie's coming out, I think, next month. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I recommend you see it too, if you can.
Oh yeah, Stephen King. I will be seeing.
Stephen King. It looks good. It looks phenomenal. I mean, it's by the guy who also made Longlegs, Osgood
Oh,
Perkins.
perfect. I love
Same director. Same director. So
got it.
watch it. So you should probably watch it then, if you've seen I know you like Longlegs. So if you like Longlegs, then you probably will like the monkey from the sounds of it. So you heard about the movie Better Man? That's the one with the Robbie Williams, but he puts himself as like an ape in the movie.
Yeah,
That film is
one.
bombing like that movie is bombing like crazy. It only made like $1 million on its opening weekend, at least here in the States. Even though the budget for the film is $100 million, it's gonna be probably the first major flop of this year, which is insane because I actually have seen the film and it's actually a very good movie. It's a very, very good movie.
Yeah, but just
Which
people
sucks.
in the States have no clue who this man is.
Who this man is. I'm like,
yeah.
like I like for me, the only reason why I knew who Robbie Williams was because I think he performed at one of the World Cups. I think it was like 2018
Okay.
or one of the World Cups. It was one of the World Cups. And I'm like, who's Robbie Williams? And then I go on Twitter and he's like, trending, and that's kind of how I learned, like, oh, he's actually very popular, elsewhere, but he never really reached here in the States. So, but yeah, it's not doing so well. So there's that. Goonies 2 is in development with the original writer. So there's that. I mean, I'll watch it. I'll be curious to see it. I mean, yeah, I mean, the Goonies, I mean, again, that's the 80s. That was not my time. So, but I have seen the film. I mean, I'm assuming you've seen it, right?
Wait, which one is it?
Goonies?
Oh, yeah. I love the Goonies.
It's a cute movie. It's a cute movie. You got to see Josh Brolin and Sean Austin and Ki-Hoo Kwan. Oh my god. As Dada.
Yeah.
Oh, such a cute movie. Just to see them all grown up. Like, oh. What else? I'm going to breeze through a couple more of these. Until Dawn trailer came out this week. That's apparently based on a video game. The first trailer just came out. It looks promising, so I'll see it. Although, again, it's video game based, so it's just like, we'll see how great it is, All right, I'm about to breeze through all these. Have you watched 28 Weeks Later, 28 Days Later movies?
I think when I was like younger, my dad showed me the first, but I don't remember it.
So you never seen the second? No, okay,
No.
I only wanted to mention it because there was a report a couple weeks ago. Well, not a report. It was like a exclusive from Empire magazine where they provide a little bit more detail about the movie, like the new movie that's coming out called 28 Years Later.
Yeah.
And apparently the infected is only contained in Britain, which is like, when I was reading that, I was like, wait, but didn't they imply that in 28 Weeks Later that there was an outbreak in Paris too? So that's basically a retcon. So I was like, that's interesting. And I was mentioning this, I'm like, did anyone notice that this is a retcon? Because I'm pretty sure they were in Paris and there was like a whole bunch of these infected people like running, and I was like, okay, or whatever. But it does seem so that they were kind of addressing this, so just wanted to mention that. All right, so let's get down to our two final topics.
Okay.
So we're going back into the It Ends With Us drama. Because there's been a lot more updates, and it's like, oh my god, when is this ever gonna end? So Justin Baldoni has now sued Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds for $400 million, for basically defamation. And even before that, so I was messaging you about this at one point because, remember Nice Pool from Deadpool and Wolverine? So a lot of people started to speculate that Nice Pool was based on Justin Baldoni.
Yep.
And especially when you start to look at the context, it's like, maybe it does seem as though that, and apparently now, since then, right? I think this happened on Tuesday or Monday, one of those days. Apparently, the Justin Baldoni's legal team has now asked Disney to keep hold of all the records of like the creation of Nice Pool and all the documents of that from Deadpool Wolverine. So it looks as though they're gonna try and use that as like evidence for their case. That if they are able to establish that Nice Pool was based on Justin Baldoni, and that it's like a form of mockery, which is like okay, but it's just like if I guess they're gonna just use it as evidence more so than the fact that they're gonna try and it's such a very complicated case. That's all I can say. It's a very complicated case. Again, it's like a he said she said thing, and it's just like okay, well, how are they gonna present their evidence? And it's just a matter of whose case is stronger based on the evidence that they have. And it's just like, I mean, again, it's just going back to the whole Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard thing. It's the same shit. Now it's just a matter of seeing how this is going to turn out. I mean, at some point, it's going to have to find a end result. I mean, I don't know if there's going to be a thing like the settlements or... I don't think there's plea bargain for these things. It's just settlements, right? So...
No clue.
I don't know. Again, I have no legal background, just so everyone knows. So please, just so everyone knows as a discrepancy, I do not have too much of a legal background, although I understand a couple things here and there, but I have no legal background. So let me just make that very clear. But yeah, I just want to give that update, just the fact that there's now a countersuit from Baldoni towards Lively and Reynolds. So, but I don't know if you want to add anything to that. I know we've talked about it a couple times here and there, and that, again, it's just a matter of he said, she said, but I don't know if you want to add anything to that conversation, especially now with the whole Nice Pool thing and now this countersuit.
I just know, which it won't happen, because I know it won't, but if this thing goes to court, I need it aired just like Johnny and Amber Heard, because I remember watching that trial the whole time. I need the same thing here. Like, I'm gonna need court TV, someone to be streaming it, because I'm gonna be like, I need to know exactly what's going on. So that's all I got.
Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's gonna be quite... And then, of course, that's now also turned into itself, like, it's all, like, documentaries and movies and whatnot. It's like, okay, well, we know America. So, alright, and then let's go into our final topic. And... I did this on purpose because, like, you know, I'm while you're in your Gossip Girl phase, I'm in my Squid Game phase.
Yes.
So Squid Game now, Squid Game it's like, again, a big phenomenon. It's doing very well on Netflix. Season 2 came out last month, and now it seems to be that Squid Game season 2 is starting to really, you know, it's starting to gain a lot of momentum, although, again, it's just a matter of whether or not it will actually beat out season 1. But this past Tuesday, Netflix had updated their, you know, viewership numbers. They do this every time. They update their viewership numbers, show what's the trending movies, what are the trending shows, and now Squid Game season 2 is, so the season, right? So I'm going by seasonal. Mm-hmm. Season 2 is now the third most watched series on Netflix, just behind Squid Game season 1 and Wednesday season 1. And it also actually beat out Stranger Things season 4.
Wow.
Imagine that. I was just reading that. I'm like, holy crap, like already? Because I believe right now it has like 150 million views or something, which again, that beats out Stranger Things season 4. And it's just like, whoa, okay, this is massive. And so now it's just a big question of will it reach season 1 and dethrone season 1 to become the most viewed series of all, like viewed season of all time, and break a whole new record for Netflix? I think right now the current record would of course be Squid Game season 1. I think it had 256 million views. I have to double check. I think that's the record to beat. But I want to bring this up because, again, this is Netflix, and, you know, just to read about these, just to read about the stats and the data about what are the most watched Netflix series, and then looking at this, and again, it makes a lot more sense why Squid Game is literally, like, Netflix's baby, because this is their most popular content, and why we're hearing these rumors about, oh, there's gonna be American development about this, or like an American version of this with David Fincher, or the fact that they're trying to expand in some way, or even the fact that the actual creator of the series is like, you know what, I do have some things I can plan if I'm ready for it, like a possible prequel about the frontman, or I don't know if he mentioned there's another character he mentioned, but the recruiter. It's like, okay, hearing this, it's like, I know that there's Netflix, like, we want to try and milk this out as much as possible, but of course we're gonna have season 3 coming out in June of this. So it's coming out this year. There was a leak that's coming out June 27th, because there was like a video leak that happened, so apparently that's the date. Again, nothing really confirmed, so I do not ask me anything about this. I'm not confirming anything. I do not. Again, this is all because of Netflix, but that's apparently the leaked date. Who knows? It could change at this point, but even that being the case, right? Just to hear about this news about Squid Game. I know you have not seen the series. I know we're trying to plan something like a reaction for it, but just to hear this, right? The fact that Squid Game season 2 is really kind of quickly rising, and again, breaking a lot of these streaming records, like, it's just insane.
Yeah, it is insane, and I need to jump on it, but
You need to jump on it like quick.
I know. I mean, I'm glad, all these actors and everything, and especially because it's coming from Korea, like, knowing like the international scene is like also floating in the States, because like everything can be so different when it comes here. So that way, the fact that it's like doing well and it's going to continue doing well. My only thing is, if they make an American version, I hope it's good. They
if
don't
they
like.
Yeah, if they make an American version, the only thing I would have to ask is, the only thing I would say would make it worthwhile is if it's just an expansion of the universe.
Yes.
So it's like it's showing a different culture perspective of what our Squid Game would look like as like an American versus Korea. Because I mean, it makes sense. Like, if you watch the series, you'll see that a lot of the games that they make is very specific to Koreans and their own like childhood and what they played when they were kids, right? But it's far different from what we used to play. Like, we never played what's it called, we never played Squid Game before. Like, there's actually an actual game called Squid Game. Like, that's of course the name of the title, but there's a game called Squid Game. I've never heard of it before. Or the fact that the one with the slapping the sheet, I think it's called Dukji. I think it's called Dukji. And then Gonji. It's like, I've never heard of these before. Whereas here, whereas the ones we are a little bit more familiar with are like tug of war. Like, there's one with tug of war, but still, it's like, I want to see that contrast. And I think there was even one, I can't remember if there was one where they were also considering a German version, because I swear there was like a conversation of a German version at some point too. But there's now been a little bit more of this discussion about an American version. And I would imagine so that Netflix would want an American version, because Squid Game is such a big phenomenon. It's their most watched series. And we're seeing this repeated again with season 2. It's like, I mean, you do not want to miss out on this opportunity, right? And that's why you need to jump on it before season 3 comes out. But seriously though, we're gonna try and figure out something, because we gotta get, because I really want to see a reaction to Squid Game, because I think that it'll be very interesting just to see a reaction. I mean, my dad was addicted to it, and he saw it like, he started it back like when season 2 had just dropped. I'm like, hey, just watch Squid Game, give it a try. And he saw it, and I told you, he saw season 1, and I was like, oh, I didn't think he was gonna watch more than 2-3 episodes. I'm like, okay. And I go to bed, and then I wake up the next day, and I'm like, oh, so how do you think of the show? He's like, it's very addicting. And then he's like, yeah. And then he was telling me where he watched this and that, and then he was talking about one character, and then it didn't like register to me until like later that he actually watched all 9 episodes in one sitting. I'm like, hold up, you finished? And he's like, yeah, it was addicting. I was up till 4 a.m. And then my mom confirmed it. Yeah, your dad was like up till like 3, 4 a.m. watching the series. He was like glued to the TV series. I'm like, oh my God. Which that's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, you need to jump on the series. Like, if my dad can be invested on like Squid Game, then you need to jump on it ASAP. I mean, I know you said that it didn't hook you in like the first episode, but you just have to get through that first 2-3 episodes to then get the actual
The
adrenaline
game.
rush, the
Yeah.
games and the adrenaline rush of like what's going on, and then meeting these characters. Like that's what makes it such a great show. But yeah, but we'll figure it out. We're gonna test it out. But yeah, but I don't know if you have anything to add into that before we wrap up.
Not really. I guess the only thing is that, like you said, I hope it's an expansion of the Squid Games universe and kind of just seeing how it is in the different countries in large, because the only experience I have with a show that it was in a different country and then they started making other versions of it is Scam, which I feel like I've talked to you about it before if you've heard Scam.
I
Um,
think you mentioned it once. Yeah.
yeah, it's originated in Norway. So this popular Norwegian show, and then they started doing
Right.
Scam France, Scam Spain, Scam US, and supposedly I never saw the French version, but that one was really good. But the concept they it was just a copy paste, like it was the same story of everything, just in the different languages,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
and the American version wasn't the best. I mean, I can't really
Oh, fair.
find the Norway version anymore, but the Norway version was peak, so that's what I'm hoping. Like, it's not just Squid Games is not just copy and paste. Like, it's a thing where, like,
I hope
you
not.
then get to see
Yeah.
it's an expansion and how everyone across the world is doing this. So, but I
I
think they
hope
will.
not. Yeah.
I think they know.
Yeah, I hope it's not gonna be just copy and paste. Like even if they try to make a remake, they would still have to change the games because again, a lot of the games were not we never played as Americans, so it's like they would have to change it. But I do hope it's just more of an expansion rather than like giving us a little bit more of exploration of how these games started. Again, they do go a little bit more into this in the Korean, like in the actual show as well. So that's why a lot of us are hoping it is just an expansion, like a spin-off. But we'll just have to see, right? So but even that being the case, you need to jump on the show. We'll try to figure something out to kind of, try to do some reaction videos for it. I mean, we're working on it. Like, I hope we can try and get
Hmm.
one set up soon, ASAP. But yeah, I think that's all we have in terms of movies and news. I mean, it's starting to really pick up. We'll see what happens this coming week, and of course, the Oscar nominations will be coming out this week, so that will probably be a topic for next week. When we come back and do our podcast again. I know we had to push up our hour just because again I have to go I have to be somewhere very soon. So, but I appreciate your flexibility, Maya. I mean, it's great to have you here as always, and just having your input wherever needed. And we'll try to set something up for a lot of our reactions. I mean, we're gonna put Daredevil and Squid Game in our priorities. I'm
Hmm.
putting that as a priority, okay? But that's a wrap right here. I think that's all we have to say about movies and TVs. Again, it's just a great time to be talking about it. And so, but yeah, I that's all I have to say right here. Thank you all for joining us and watching, listening to our input about some of the biggest news out this week. We hope to be back again next Sunday. Just again, same thing, just a whole wrap up of news and on TV and movies. And yeah, I think we're gonna do 5 p.m. right. We're gonna try and stick to 5 p.m. But
Yeah.
if anything changes, I'll post the updates. But that's all from me. Thank you, everyone. I don't know if you want to give any closing as well, Maya.
No.
All right, thanks everyone. I hope you all have a good Sunday.